are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and it's another amazing show lineup for y'all. We have a special guest for today, Christian Espinosa. He has an amazing website you need to check out, christianespinosa.com. He is a U.S. Air Force retired veteran. I want to say, first and foremost, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you contribute to our country. He has a lot of things that we're going to be talking about today, and most importantly, I just want to do a little justice, giving a little background. He is someone that you need to know in the tech world, because when it comes to his company, he's the founder of Blue Ghost Cyber. And I want to say, I was checking out some behind the scenes stuff. Your story is incredible. It's going to take 30 minutes to give all the details. I'll kind of speed up here. 24-time Ironman triathlete, 2-time best author, skydiver, mountain climber. He loves adventure. So I just want to cut to the chase, man. I told you it's going to take too long to go your resume. But first and foremost, Christian, thank you for your time. How are you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Shamaya?
Doing awesome, man. You have a lot more on your portfolio that we can kind of go through throughout the show, but I just want to give them just a teaser. Let's start out first. I noticed on your website, you're pushing a lot of your books. What prompted you first, before we get into all that, to serve your country and become a U.S. Air Force?
I was trying to escape my childhood. I grew up in extreme poverty in Arkansas, in a small town. My mother was addicted to pain meds and other drugs, and there's always car wrecks. We lived in a single wide trailer on welfare and WIC and government cheese, and it was just very chaotic. And I decided to apply myself in school to try to get out of my childhood, and got accepted to all 3 military academies, and ended up going to the Air Force Academy. So that was like my literally the first time I've ever ridden on an airplane was the plane ride from Little Rock, Arkansas to Colorado Springs to the Air Force Academy. And that was my way to kind of not become a product of my environment.
And your story is truly inspiring. I mean, you hold multiple patents related to cybersecurity, attack, and defense. So let's kind of start out with all the athletic background you have. We mentioned in the intro a little teaser of all the things you've done from an athletic standpoint. Was that something that you were drawn to early on prior military, or was that something that you just kind of grew into during and after?
In my childhood, I kind of did whatever I could do to avoid going home. So any athletics, football, track, basketball, I signed up for. So the most time I could spend away from my house and around like an activity like football where I could take out my frustration, the better. So I started that in I guess junior high to kind of have a reprieve from going back home, because I never wanted to go back home. It was too chaotic. So I thought, okay, I'll join the football team and practice every day until later,
What I love is one of your books, The Smartest Person in the Room. It kind of illustrates the stories of the ups and downs, where you examine your pitfalls and seeking validation. Kind of touched on a little bit on that book, and just part of that story of the ups and downs in your life.
Yeah, The Smartest Person in the Room. I wrote the book about my first cybersecurity business that I sold in 2020. And it's really a transformational journey to write a book. So I have to do a lot of reflection when I wrote the book. And one of the things I realized is that in cybersecurity and other high-tech industries, most people get their significance by, being, quote, smarter than other people. I think humans want to be significant, and we achieve that in various ways. And in cybersecurity and high-tech industries, it's typically by being intellectually smarter than people. And the gap there is there's not a lot of emotional intelligence. It's sort of sacrificed for this intellectual, bullying and intellectual prowess, I guess. So when I wrote the book, I realized when I look back on my life, that I had done a lot of the intellectual bullying, like looking for an opportunity to show somebody that they didn't know what they're talking about, or not collaborating well, or talking over somebody's head. And that was a big problem in my company. But when I was running a company, I saw it through a different lens as a problem I had to solve. Otherwise, we wouldn't have clients and my team wouldn't collaborate well.
You also are author of your book that you push in as well, the in between life and the micro. And this details the transformation from me against the world mentality to a more compassionate global citizen focus on uplifting humanity. Kind of touch on that process of that project.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Given my childhood and in my small town, I think everybody expected me to fail and become a product of our environment. So I developed like super thick skin and a me against the world attitude. Like, I'm going to show everybody, I'm going to prove that I can make it, that I will not become a product of my environment. And I don't need anybody. That's what I kept telling myself. I don't need help from anybody. I can do it all on my own, all on my own, all alone. And that got me pretty far in life. But I hit a glass ceiling, and I realized that I needed to, build a team and become part of, the world, and not just like me against the world, become integrated with the world, and develop some of that emotional intelligence I talked about in my first book. So the second book, The Life in the In-Between Life and the Micro, is really about my hyper focus on achieving macro level goals, like big goals, like completing an Ironman triathlon or climbing a mountain. And I got so hyper focused on that I totally had blinders on what was right in front of me. So I let relationships fall apart. And I tried to justify I'm chasing this big goal. And it was sort of me against the world, because I had to prove to the world through achievements that I was worthy, that I was enough, versus me just realizing I don't need to prove anything. I am enough just by who I am. So it's like this whole process I had to go through to balance chasing something with what's right in front of me.
Once again, you're listening and watching Focus Radio on podcast radio. Also watching us online. We're talking to our special guest, Christian Espinosa, and go to his website, christianespinosa.com. Let's dive into a little bit on cybersecurity, because I think that's something that is a hot topic in a lot of places nowadays. So when you look at your venture towards cybersecurity, how have your experiences in business and also just exploring the tech world, how has that influence your approach to leadership?
So I did cybersecurity in the military. I used to protect classified networks. And with my first company, we did general cybersecurity. And now with Blue Goat Cyber, we focus on medical device cybersecurity. So I lead my team, and I'm trying to lead the industry in securing medical devices from attackers. This could be like an implantable, like a pacemaker, it could be a drug infusion pump, it could be a surgical robot. And there's all these advances in healthcare, and I would hate for these advances to be rolled back because some cyber criminal, hacked into the surgical robot. So I'm working to keep these products on the market and to help new innovations get on the market. So new advances in healthcare, new medical technologies can get on the market, and they're secure from cyber attacks.
When you think about your background as being someone who's all about adventure, I think I read in your bio you had 300 skydiving experiences. That's very interesting. Kind of tell us, what was the first attempt skydiving? What was that experience like? Was it something that you enjoyed? And does that explain why it was about 300 times you skydove?
The first time I skydived was in the military at the Air Force Academy. I did what's called free fall school. So we jumped out with the round parachutes where you hit the ground super hard. And it was a short, it wasn't a lot of free fall. And then I went through a divorce, and after I got divorced, my wife, when I was married, wouldn't let me skydive. But after I got divorced, I'm like, I'm going to go to the drop zone and find something else to focus on and, develop a community of skydivers as friends. So that's what I started doing. And probably the coolest skydive I've done is that of a hot air balloon. I've done a couple of those. The hot air balloon is different because there's like 4 skydivers in the basket. You got the flame going up and you're afraid it might like burn your parachute. It's like a lot of stuff going on. And the thing about a hot air balloon is it has to be descending pretty quickly. Because I guess they figured out a long time ago, like when skydivers jump out, the balloon weighs less and it'll, take off in the air higher. So it's this weird experience where the balloon is descending super quickly. It's very quiet. You're over whatever, like you're not over a drop zone or like an airport. You're over a field. There's power lines and you're pretty low, like 2,500 feet or 3,000. So you jump out and it's like the following sensation. You can literally hear yourself accelerating to terminal velocity. Because when you jump out of a plane, the forward momentum is just transferred to like downward momentum. So it's totally different. So jumping out of a hot air balloon is like the coolest thing. Plus the landing, like the first time I did it, I'm coming to land and I'm in the middle of nowhere, like in Illinois, and some dog spots me, and the dog is like coming to where I'm landing. I'm thinking, man, is this dog going to bite me? Get all tangled up in my parachute? It's like this crazy experience, but the dog was fortunately friendly. And then I had to find a way back to the drop zone. So some like farmer on the dirt road where I landed, like saw me walking with my parachute and gave me a ride back to the drop zone. So that was very interesting. It was a cool experience.
Having that mentality, I would say like, having the go-getter mentality, like you're not waiting for something to happen. You're just out there and experiencing life, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever. When you look at reflecting back on your personal and professional life, what motivated you to continue to push yourself beyond the physical and mental limits? And how did that benefit you for not just your military experience, but also being CEO as well?
I value resourcefulness and resilience. I think those are 2 traits in our modern society that are overlooked. So putting myself through challenges helps me learn to be more resourceful. It helps me realize that, and I think we all are, that we're capable of much more than we think we are. And if it's a difficult challenge, like an endurance event or building a business, that's requires a lot of resilience because things are not going to work out the way you intend, and you're going to have to bounce back. You're going to have to take the punch, and how you react is what matters. And how you can figure out how to react is what matters. That's the resourcefulness. So I think those are 2 extremely important skills, for me at least, resilience and resourcefulness, because in life, you're going to get punched in the face. How do you respond? And you got to be resourceful and you got to be resilient because it's going to keep coming. Especially if you're trying to get to the next level, if you're just, being comfortable, which I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be uncomfortable and growing. The punches are going to come, the obstacles are going to come, and you got to figure out how to get around them and how to handle it.
When you think about personal growth, you do talk about that in your book, the in-between life in the macro. How does self-leadership play a role in shape a person's mindset as they are facing those challenges head on?
I think self-leadership is overlooked. We think to be a leader, we have to have these people assigned to us. But leadership starts with yourself. And if you can lead yourself, that's the most important person to lead, then you could lead other people. But I think we overlook that, and we often live a life by circumstance versus by taking charge of our own life. So with me, when I think of self-leadership, I think back to that resilience and resourcefulness, like what can I do and how can I evolve and what can I learn and who can I become to help me get to that next level? That's self-leadership for me because I'm leading my own life. No one's going to lead your life better than you, right? No one's going to come save you. No one's going to tell you where to go and what to do. It's up to you. So I think it's extremely important to take agency and control and lead your own life. And by going through that process, you will naturally become a better leader to your spouse, your family, your friends, people that work for you, your team, and the community at whole.
You listen to Refocus Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest, Christian Espinosa. You go to his website, christianespinosa.com. When you look at risk versus reward, being a leader in your business and delegating and creating systems, building your team, what are some ways that you try to analyze, okay, what's the best move I can make or reflect on when it comes to risk versus reward?
Well, I think we have to take risks to get to the next level. And I think a lot of people are very risk averse. So what I try to do is do what I can do to control the risk, to minimize the risk at a level I accept. Like, as an example, I'm building my business now. I'm going to establish payroll. Payroll is super risky. With my last business, I almost didn't make payroll several times. I'm like on the floor in a fetal position, like crying. It's very stressful. So now, the way to mitigate the risk of payroll is I want to have a big reserve in the bank. Like, I'm targeting like $250,000 to the bank, and maybe more. So if I have a slow period, I've got a reserve to help cover the payroll. So I'm reducing the risk. But I need to get payroll in place because then I can retain more people and have benefits and all that. So there's the reward of that, but there's ways to reduce the risk, right? And I just try to think, if I'm going to make this decision, like if I let somebody go, who's going to replace that person? And try to think 5 steps ahead. Like, how do I start training somebody now? Because I know this person in my soul is not going to work out, as example. But when they don't work out, I've already got somebody else in place. So that's what I do to reduce the risk. Just try to think several steps ahead.
And when you mentioned about being 5 steps ahead in the training mode, when you're training these individuals to lead themselves, going back to that point, what are some of the key strategies that you've seen have a positive impact on the individuals that you're helping along to take ownership in their journey of leadership?
I think the biggest thing is you just said it, is taking ownership. You've got to take ownership of your decisions and the results of your decisions. I think life is a collection of our decisions. So taking ownership, and that's one of my core values in my company, is extremely important. And when I say ownership, that means, like, if you're on a sales call, as an example, and the sale doesn't go well, like we don't close the deal, like, take ownership and do some analysis and figure out, how can I improve? So ownership is part of it. You can just say, oh, it didn't go well, it's my fault. But the next step is to see how you can improve. And I'm a big proponent of Kaizen, which is a Japanese word for continuous and never-ending improvement. So we take ownership of the problem, and then we analyze the root cause and figure out how to improve. And over time, these little bitty improvements result in like a big improvement. And I think from a self-leadership perspective, or ownership perspective, or leading a team perspective, these things are necessary.
And with everyone's journey, there's a point where you have to really tune into mastering new skill sets. When you look at your background with all your athletic activities and climbing mountains, when you look at the challenges that we had to face head on, because there's one thing when you start in the beginning and then a storm comes in life and it tests you how bad you want it. How have you been able to break down the process of learning those skill sets to master, and how does that translate to being an effective leader?
I think one of the biggest skill sets I've had to learn is delegating and letting go. Because I'm a person that thinks I can do everything better than everybody. And in some regard I can on certain things, but I'm not scalable if that's my belief. So I have to realize I need to build a team around me, train them, and find people that are good at what I need them to be good at, and then delegate to them. And through my journey, I've realized, I'm really good at like vision and getting things going, but I'm not good at keeping them going. So like in my first company, I had a COO that could keep things going and make improvements and could help implement my vision. So I had to like realize like what my unique ability is and build a team around me to do the things that I'm not very good at, or I'm good at, but I get bored with it, and that's been a skill that's, it's taken me a long time to do. And even now in this company, I'm trying to scale it very quickly, and I've got to there's only so many hours a day. I got to say, I can no longer do this. I have to have somebody else do it. And I have to spend the time and invest the time and train them to do it, because ultimately that will free up more of my time later on, and take those steps to do that.
Once again, listener, folks ready and watching this online, talking to our guest today, Christian Espinosa. Go to his website, christianespinosa.com. And wrapping things up in these last 6 minutes, a couple more questions. First one is, when you look at creativity, it excites the whole process, the environment, everything. It shows our personality, all that. I read in your bio that you love music. You have taste for heavy metal. How does food, music, friends, family, events, being creative, how does that process help a leader in how they shape their style?
Yeah, I think it's important to step away from the day-to-day. I'm not sure if it's really being creative, but it helps me be creative and think of new things. Like a couple days ago, there's a lake here by where I live. I just walked around the lake and listened to a book on Audible. And while I was listening to that book, it was one of Donald Miller's books. A lot of creative ideas were coming to my head, like things I should implement in the company. But if I didn't step away, because at first I'm like, I don't have freaking time to step away and do that, But if I didn't step away, I wouldn't have got reinvigorated with these new ideas of what I should implement in the company. And I think that's important. I think you need to schedule it in your day. A lot of people think, creativity is just going to hit you at some point in time. But I've noticed for me that if I schedule a walk, or time to work on my book, or time to listen to something, a YouTube or a podcast, or a book on Audible, then I become more creative. But I have to schedule it, because it's not just going to, in life and in each day, you have to schedule things in that you want to have happen in your life.
When you think back and look at your military career and your athletic background, there are high pressure moments that people face, whether it's personal or professional world. How has those high pressure moments in your world help you not just navigate the challenges of running business, but also leaving a legacy with your life?
They've helped me gain perspective. Like in skydiving, I don't know if it's a high pressure moment, but it's an intense moment. I've had problems with my main parachute where I've had to think, okay, I either need to fix this within the next second, or cut away my main parachute and deploy my reserve. And there's risk with that. What if it doesn't deploy? So I put myself to a lot of situations where are high pressure, even being on the side of the road, throwing up for an Ironman triathlon and wondering what I'm going to do. Sliding down the mountain in Mount Elbrus and having to self-arrest so I didn't accelerate and die. All these things are reminders of a couple things. One is to be present, because if you're present, you can make better decisions if you're in that moment. When I fell down the mountain in Mount Elbrus, my mind was wandering. I lost track of kicking in my steps with crampons. When I had the skydiving incident, if I was daydreaming, I wouldn't respond properly. So it's important to be present for me. And it's also helps with decision-making skills. I think a lot of us get lazy with decisions. And if we stop making decisions, it becomes hard to make a decision. For me, I can make very quick decisions. And I'll get behind somebody at a fast food restaurant or something. They'll spend 10 minutes, look at the menu. I'm like, just freaking pick something. This is not that big of a decision, right? There's bigger decisions you should focus on. I think being able to make those quick decisions and staying present and exercising that decision muscle so you don't spend 10 minutes looking at the 8 items on the menu, I think it's extremely important, especially if you're going to do big things in your life. The quicker you can make decisions and analyze the variables, the better, because if you get stuck for too long on something, the opportunity may pass you by.
Once again, listening to folks radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest, Christian Espinosa. Go to his website, christianespinosa.com. Lastly, you also are known as being a keynote speaker as well. kind of share with the audience, just in case if there's a way organization can invite you to speak at an event or however that works, you can unpack the process. What are some of the things you focus on when you're doing keynote speaking?
Right now, I've mainly been focusing on medical device cybersecurity, like how to hack into medical devices and how to protect them with an audience of medical device manufacturers. I've also spoken quite a bit on leadership, like 7 steps to develop emotional intelligence for your team, which is really what my first book is about. And then balancing achieving that big goal or going after that big goal and what's right in front of you, which is my second book, focusing on the intentionality in the small moments and the importance of that, because it can inform that big thing you're going after. And you may realize it's not even something I want to go after anymore. So those are a few of the things I talk about, as well as entrepreneurship. That's, I've built one business and sold it. I'm working on a second one now. And people can find me on my company website, bluegoatcyber.com, or like you said, christianespinosa.com, or on LinkedIn.
Well, like always, I want to say to our special guest today, Christian Espinosa, thank you for this TED Talk, amazing masterclass. I'm excited to listen to this again. That's my little, if I can have a moment here and say so on the show, that's something I try to do as a host. I listen to all my guest interviews, believe it or not. I always do, because I had a wise person share with me some secret sauce of what makes a great host. And I think the power of listening is like one step. But just like you explore in this conversation, self-leadership is the following step. And you can only get better as you are intentional to be better. And the more you're intentional to get up versus sit on that couch, you're going to be light years ahead every time you choose to get up. It doesn't matter how small the step is, as long as you are actually taking that step and being intentional about it. So that's something I just want to share real fast. But once again, like always, I want to say to you, Christian, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.